Tennessee and their coaching staff has been remarkably consistent throughout the years, the past couple of years under Josh Heupel. Whereas I remember when Justin Wilcox left Dooley's staff, and I think that was my first year with ESPN, and I heard it from afar, and I thought that's bad news because I think he's a good football coach. Now, he hasn't had great success since, and I don't know that he's a head coach, but I thought that he was a good defensive coordinator. Caleb, would you agree on that?
Oh, yes. I think Justin Wilcox is a very, very good defensive coordinator.
Hasn't had great success as a head coach, but you can have that. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. And he has had success as a coordinator and had success at Tennessee. So take me to your story if you can. It's on offthehooksports.com, and tell me how you went about it, ranking every member of the Vols 2023 coaching staff by importance. Now, I don't want to give away the end because you and I agree, which we're not supposed to do. But when we start talking about the Jerry Macks of the world, the Alec Ablins of the world, Kelsey Pope, Brian Jean-Marie, Joey Halsley, Rodney Garner, Mike Eckler, Glenn Ellerby, there's a lot of wiggle room. So how did you determine what coaches fell where? Did you factor in, let's say, longevity, how much longer they're going to coach? Did you factor in recruiting? How did you rank them? Because I'm supposed to disagree with you, and we're supposed to have conflict, Skip Bayless style, but I agree with your list. I think it's very strong. And on the message board, let me ask you, who's the most important assistant head coach? The irony is, hint, hint, that it's probably statistically the least successful head coach if you just want to look at it by numbers. But I love where Caleb has gone there, and we'll get to four downs here momentarily. It'll be brought to you by Craft Treats. So you take me through your process of how you brought these names into a concise list, because I love it. One vote for Rodney Garner already. Go ahead, Caleb.
So I ranked it based on three things. One was the actual skill level of the coach themselves, like how their abilities, what they have proven as as an assistant coach at their position, the level of success they had, and the level of success I think they can have. The other one I bring up is the actual level of importance of the role they play. And I think this is where a lot of people are going to get confused. And there's two ways to factor in the importance. One is, does your position require a lot of coaching? You and I both know running backs doesn't require a lot of coaching. Am I right, Dave? I mean, that's just a fact.
Yep, very true.
Yeah. And so
you can make up for that, but you can't make up for that if you're pulling in 6 4-stars a year, right?
Exactly. That was going to be the third factor. But the second factor is, does your position require a lot of coaching, or does someone else have their hands over what you're doing? So a lot of you guys are going to be shocked where I have Joey Halsley, and the reason I have him maybe not as high as you might think is because everything Joey Halsley does, I feel like Josh Heupel's doing too. And then the third one is your ability as a recruiter. And recruiters, that's where irrelevant position coaches matter the most, is they need to be, if you're coaching running backs, you need to be on the recruiting trail every day. Like every single day you need to be on the trail.
Agreed. Let's take the look at the list now. Let's take a look at the list now. Easy for me to say. And it's brought to you by Chill Pills. CraftTreats.com, where they have the Chill Pills. CraftTreats.com, the Chill Pills. Please support our advertisers, and you can put in the exclusive promo code Off the Hook. That's Off the Hook at CraftTreats.com. Get 20% off when you use that exclusive code Off the Hook. That is Off the Hook. The Chill Pills will help with your dog's digestive issues or your pet's digestive issues. Also, arthritis and anxiety. They have the CBD derivative. So we've got a vote for Garner. So here is how the list goes according to Caleb Calhoun. I'll tell you what I think. Willie Martinez, the defensive backs. I think Willie Martinez is an above average recruiter, but right now it's tough for me to have him anywhere but 10th based off what Tennessee has done in the defensive backfield. Alec Ablin at tight ends just got the job. He may turn out to be the next Bill Belichick of the world, but we don't know that right now. Jerry Mack at running backs was 8th. Again, running back is not a terribly difficult position to be able to coach. So I'm assuming you think his recruiting is kind of, it's got to be stellar to stand out at the running back position, right?
Yeah, and I have him ahead of Abelin and Martinez because I feel like he's actually a better recruiter than both of them.
Okay.
And he is a young, energetic recruiter. But outside of that, yeah, nothing special yet.
Kelsey Pope, you have at 7. I could make a pretty strong argument he's a little bit higher because of the development of Jalen Hyatt. But let's be honest, I think that's a product of the system. And I'm guessing that's kind of where you're going.
Yes, I give him more credit for Cedric Tillman, and he was an off-field analyst at the time, but Cedric Tillman will be the first to tell you that Kelsey Pope really developed him. Pope is an expert at developing wideouts. The next step for him is to prove he can actually bring in top receiver talent on their trail.
So you got Brian John Marie. We know that Jeremy Banks was recently cut from the NFL. So I think Brian John Marie, when you do this list next year, could be as high as 3 or as low as 9, because I don't think he has had elite talent to work with. He should have that with Keenan Pili, Beasley, and Arian Carter. They should take a jump this year. They should be significantly better. And then you have Joey Halsley at number 5 as an offensive coordinator. Now, it surprised me a little bit. You had him over Rodney Garner, who I think has done a great job of developing defensive linemen.
I had him behind Rodney Garner.
Behind Rodney Garner. So you had Gardner at 4, Halsley at 5. Gardner, I think, has done a good job of developing defensive linemen and can still recruit. So I was a little bit surprised that you had him down
at 4.
behind or in front of that you had him in front of Halsley. I was a little bit surprised by that.
Well, no, I have him better than Halsley though.
Okay. That you didn't have him higher on the list and just above Halsley. So I would probably have him in front of Eckler, and then who you have 3rd, and Ellerby you have 2nd. Now, the one that might surprise people is Tim Banks. If you look at the stats of what Tennessee has done defensively, you would immediately say it can't be the defensive coordinator. But I disagree. I think that he has done a lot with an uphill battle. Caleb, when he's playing defense with this offense on the other side, not a ton of talent on that side. So I got no problem with you having Tim Banks as number 1. I also like, and I've said this before, I think Tim Banks has been incredibly underrated in what he's put together on a defensive front as far as twists and stunts and different blitz packages. I feel like he's making shepherd's pie. So do you know what shepherd's pie is made out of, Caleb?
I'm Irish and I still don't.
Yeah. It's whatever you got left. You just throw it in a pot and then you put mashed potatoes over it. It's whatever you got left. So I feel like that Tim Banks on a weekly basis is making shepherd's pie. And he's making pretty good shepherd's pie. Not great shepherd's pie, but good shepherd's pie. So I have no problem with you having him number 1. But if somebody didn't cover Tennessee's program closely, they might look at this and say, man, is Caleb best friends with Tim Banks or something? But no, I don't think that at all. I think kudos to that pick.
Yeah, the only question with Tim Banks was last year with the South Carolina game when Jeremy Banks was suspended. It seems like he called off all of his stunts and rushes, but I think he knew that the linebackers were going to struggle the way that without Jeremy Banks in there doing that. And I think that the onus was on the defensive line to play with their hair on fire in that game. And you and I talked about just the nature of that day of football resulted in them not playing with their hair on fire. I think they were watching football games all day and they were trying to worry if USC could lose to jogging for their college football playoff spot. And then the South Carolina game kicks off and they're just not ready to go. And I don't think,
Caleb, it seems like when we're judging Tennessee, we almost have to take that game just completely off the table, with the exception of how did Josh Heupel handle the week heading into that Saturday. Now, we can criticize that, but almost everything else that happened along with the Hooker injury, and I think they had a bad week of preparation on defense, not because Jeremy Banks purposely undermined anybody, just you had that going on all week. He had missed a team function early in the week. He got in the altercation with Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker. I almost think when you judge these coaches, with the exception of the head coach who should have been able to get things under control earlier in the week, I think you almost have to remove that from the way we judged the Vols last year.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. It was a combination of everything. Dave, if that's a noon game, I bet Tennessee wins that. I don't know how you feel. I bet Tennessee wins that if it's a noon game. I think defensive line is ready to go. But I think a night game that they're not really that hyped about playing in South Carolina. Again, you educated me on this. Defensive line, a lot of it is how willing are you to play with your hair on fire on every play. And I think there was just a lot of lethargy on the line. Tim Banks was going to rely on them. So I don't blame him for that. And you're right. The rest of the time, the only other game you could criticize was the Florida game where Anthony Richardson threw all over the field. But that was by design. Tim Banks knew where he was outmanned. And his goal was to say, I'm going to make Florida work the whole field and work the clock to try to score. And if they have to run more plays, they're bound to make a mistake. And there was that Anthony Richardson fumble in the second half. And if Tennessee special teams does its job, then Florida's not in that game in the end. So I think that because of that, I agree with you. Tim Banks is the most important. Now, again, this is a combination of most important and best. I don't think he's the best. If I'm just doing who's the best at their job on this list, I would say Rodney Garner. I'm with you. And the reason I have him at 4, though, is you need Glenn Ellerbe to develop that offensive line. Like, that's crucial to Josh Heupel's system. And Mike Eckler running special teams adds another element to the game. But Tim Banks is the most important. And the team is going to go. We know Josh Heupel's offense is going to be there. This team is going to go based on 2 things this year, which is, does Joe Milton have the accuracy concerns under control? And does Tim Banks do his job well?
Yep. Let's get to 4 downs right now. 4 downs is brought to you by our friends at Craft Treats. Use the promo code Off the Hook. Get 20% off, including those CBD treats for your pet. The promo code Off the Hook saves you 20%. You can use it again and again. Support our advertisers. We greatly appreciate that.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
First down. Which Tennessee assistant that we just mentioned will have the best overall career? So counting what they've done now, and then when Off the Hook Sports celebrates its 20th anniversary in 2042, and Caleb's running this thing because I've been dead a long time, which Tennessee assistant coach will have the best overall career? First down.
I'm going to say, I think Alec Ablin. I think he's a rising star.
How'd you do that to me? That's who I was going to pick.
Ha! Sorry.
All right. It's Alec Ablin because either Josh Heupel's absolutely right on this guy or he took the easy way out and just elevated. And at this point, I'm giving Josh Heupel the benefit of the doubt on these decisions. Which of the current coaches has had the biggest impact on the Vols? That would be called second
down. I would say it's Rodney Garner, just because of the recruiting and what he's done with the defensive line.
I would argue Alex Golesh, but he's gone. So I guess you're right. Agreeing way too much on the program. We're going to have to go over these things a little closer in our 3:45 production meeting every morning. So, Coop, what down is it?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Which of these coaches that we have mentioned is most likely to leave? Will be the first to leave?
That will be Willie Martinez, because I don't think he's going to like the lack of respect he's getting from people like me, and I don't think the staff themselves really respect Willie Martinez that much.
I'm going to say Alec Ablin because I think that he'll get an opportunity to be an offensive coordinator. Not a head coach like Golesh, but get an opportunity to be a head coordinator, to be an offensive coordinator. Not a head coach, but an offensive coordinator. I could see that happening if Tennessee has 2 more good years offensively, especially 3 more good years offensively, as you would expect that they would have with Nico waiting in the wings. I wouldn't surprise.
Do you think Ablin will be hired as an offensive coordinator before Hausley is hired as a head coach?
See, that's the direction I was going to go. I was going to go that Hausley is going to be viewed as, hey, you're just there while Josh Heupel runs his offense, where somebody like a smaller school could pick an Ablin and say he can bring a lot over, but you don't have to make the commitment as a head coach.
So Ablin would be for somebody who wants to run the offense, but doesn't want to have, but doesn't trust the head coaching ability. They just believe in the offense itself.
Right. It would be like when Tulsa hired Gus Malzahn as the offensive coordinator, and they were number 1 in the nation in offense for 2 straight years. That kind of hire, a Tulsa kind of hire, says, I think this Ablin guy may be something. All right, which coach has the best year this year? And a lot of the recruiting's already in the barn, so we can start to lean towards what coach has the best year this year. I'm going to go ahead and throw mine out there. Based off what we think about him, I'm going to say that it is the guy that we've kind of banged up on a little bit, and I think it's Mike Eckler. I think as linebackers coach, and if you want to throw Brian John Marie in there as well, because Eckler does a lot of special teams in the outside linebackers, but there's really only one outside linebacker nowadays. So I think it'd be one of those two at the linebacker position. I think Tennessee goes from very average to pretty good at linebacker with Carter and Peely and Beasley. So I will say those two are the most likely to jump up on the list when Caleb does this list next year.
So the 2 people running the linebackers, Brian G. Mary and Mike Eckler.
Yep. It's your list, so whoever you decide to give more credit to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the same person who got it last year. I think it's going to be Kelsey Pope. I think you're going to see another emergence of new receivers that are all superstars this year.